December 12th, 2025, Buddhadhamma, Chapter 7.10, additional points of or on the attributes of a sotapanna, a stream enterer. Let us look more closely at the 5 qualities of faith, moral conduct, learning, generosity, and wisdom, which incorporates the 4 factors of stream entry. Sotapatiyanga. Gautama Buddha emphasized these qualities and used them as benchmark for progress in relation to noble disciples, both for their realization of stream entry and after. Special attention should be given to the quality of faith. Why did Gautama Buddha mention faith every time he discussed this stage of practice? Even though Buddhism encounters panya to be the supreme quality for spiritual development. The 5 qualities are referred to as the 5 accomplishments, sampata, the 5 treasures, tanha, and the 5 qualities of growth, vatati. The first one is faith, sattha, trust and conviction resulting from reason and wise comprehension. There are 3 aspects to sattha. The first aspect is the faith in the awakened Buddha. The existence of the awakened Buddha is proof that through their own efforts and by mindfulness and wisdom, human beings are able to realize the highest truth. Human beings can be trained and cultivated, both in regard to proper conduct, vice versa. Their external environment, in regard to the spiritual qualities, they are able to develop wisdom to the point that they escape from the oppression by mental defilements and make an end of dukkha, make the end to suffering, realizing supreme deliverance. With this realization, human beings become excellent, self-reliant. They need not petition on a divinity like devatas or a Mara or a Brahma to intercede on their behalf. By recognizing the exceptional virtues of the awakened one who has reached this realization, a person with faith should cultivate these virtues in him or herself and try to reach the truth that Gautama Buddha has made known. The second factor is the eternal law of Dhamma. The truth or the highest good, which Gautama Buddha discovered and revealed. The truth is stable, certain, autonomous. It is the natural law of cause and effect. It does not rely on the appearance of a Buddha. It is neutral and impartial to all beings. It invites investigation and spiritual practice. Every person who has developed himself adequately and has sufficient wisdom can realize this truth. This realization leads to liberation and the end of dukkha, the end of suffering. Thirdly, faith in the noble community, which is an example community, the model, the sangha. This community acts as proof that every person has the potential to realize the highest truth realized by Gautama Buddha. The community only comes into existence, however, when individuals allow the truth to manifest through their spiritual practice. This community is comprised of people with different levels of maturity and development, but is unified by the adherence to the same standards. They have the eternal law of Dhamma as their focus and standards of measurement. They are the vessels through which the eternal law of Dhamma manifests. One should treasure and participate in the virtue of this community because the Sangha acts more than any other community to preserve the eternal law of Dhamma in the world. It is the source for goodness and well-being to spread in the world. These 3 aspects of faith are trust that truth, a natural law of cause and effect, exists Human beings are capable of realizing this truth. And there are exceptional people who have reached this truth. Share it with others. Those who have confidence in this truth and in human potential to realize it will strive to generate the results, especially through proper action. They believe in the causal link between action and the fruits of action. And this belief leads to the steadfast ethical behavior and solid understanding. They do not rely primarily on external forces for help, as they trust that all together people can build a virtuous and ideal community, which is comprised of individuals who have trained themselves and realized the truth of the awakened Buddha. By reflecting on causality, a person has a firm conviction that the Gautama Buddha was truly awakened. His teachings accord with the truth that it is the utmost benefit to join the community of enlightened disciples who follows this teaching. The second to consider is sila, moral conduct. A moral code, the entire system of conduct covering both private behavior and one's interaction with society through physical actions and speech, including one's livelihood. This code of conduct is established to assist in the attainment of the highest good. It aims to prevent unskillful actions and promote good action by teaching people to see the relationship between their deeds and their environment. It brings about stability, both personal and social. It's the foundation of higher spiritual practice. It helps to perfect physical and verbal conduct and emphasizes harmonious coexistence. Such a harmonious social environment allows each individual to live at peace and to train him or herself in order to reach the higher states of realization. For the general public, the basic code of conduct that supports well-being of the 5 precepts: to not violate living creatures, to not violate others' property, to not violate loving relationship, to not violate truth by speaking falsely or aggressively, and not to impair mindfulness with clear comprehension, sampajana. By using addictive substances, certain communities establish more intricate and refined codes of conduct. For example, the 8 precepts, the 10 precepts, the 227 precepts for an ordered discipline to reach the goal of that specific community. There are several attributes of Buddhist morality. First, it creates a conducive external environment for spiritual practice leading to the highest goal. Second, it promotes peace and harmony within the community so that each individual can pursue his or her activity in comfort. And thirdly, the restraint of moral conduct leads to self-discipline and the reduction of mental impurity. Moral conduct makes a person receptive to wholesome qualities, in particular to its basis for concentration. Although there are levels of moral conduct higher than the 5 precepts, all desirable codes of conduct requires the Dhamma practice, referred to the conduct cherished by the noble ones, Ariya Khandha Sila, share the same essence and have the same criteria. They follow neither out of the desire of pleasurable rewards, nor out of attachment or out of fixed views of morality, nor by blindly following social customs. They are followed by understanding the true purpose of moral precepts. For lay Buddhists who have this proper perspective, observing the 5 precepts is enough to lead to stream entry. The third point is sutta, learning. That which is heard, knowledge gained from listening, reading, studying, news, media, or any other sources, knowledge of noble teaching, Buddhadhamma, the teaching of enlightened beings, which revealed the highest way to life and the path to awakening. Knowledge gained for the careers and general activities in the world, for the examples in arts and sciences, is insignificant to become a noble disciple. Worldly knowledge varies between different individuals and is not always harmless. Although it is developed to solve problems and generate happiness, often it has this opposite desired effect that creates all sorts of complications. Therefore, it is not the same as the learning referred to here. The knowledge of the noble disciples is always beneficial. It is the knowledge that every person needs to lead a good life. It enables people to apply professional knowledge to promote personal and social well-being. It prevents harm and solves problems in a truly effective way. And most importantly, it alone can lead to an ordinary person to become enlightened. For professional knowledge to be an effective tool for solving problems, it must be in line with the knowledge of the noble teachings. All these forms of knowledge, however, including the knowledge of noble teaching, resemble the first, a storeroom containing raw materials. The knowledge has not been yet applied to truly settling one's affairs. After acquiring the knowledge, a person assimilates it and makes it into his own as a particular view or belief. But for the knowledge to be truly effective, it must become an instrument for wisdom. At point, it develops into analytical and discriminative knowledge, and it is integrated into a systematic, comprehensive practice. Dhamma-nu-dhamma pati-pati. Fourthly, sakha, generosity. True giving, outward replenishment by giving material things, and inward relinquishments by abandoning greed and absence of stinginess. Noble disciples do not seek reward, mental gain, prestige, happiness, or heaven in exchange for their gifts. Their expressions in the sutras, delighting in giving and sharing, dana sambhaka rata, indicates that noble disciple derives joy from the very act of giving. They do not experience the suffering or disappointment from such thoughts as, I have given but received nothing in return. Noble disciples are endowed with loving kindness and compassion without the argue to acquire, to possess. The heart becomes expansive and sympathy for others arises. One clearly sees other people's hardships and suffering and naturally inclines to generosity. One finds joy in giving by alleviating others' sufferings and making them happy. The goodness in the act of giving becomes the reward. By giving, the world becomes a happier place. In addition, generosity purifies the heart, reduces mental impurities, and leads a person closer to the goal. As Venerable Sariputra said, wise persons do not give gifts for worldly happiness, nor do they give gifts for a better rebirth. Wise person gives gifts to remove defilements, to reach the states of no renewed existence. Besides generous assistance in a wider context, noble disciples are generous with their fellow companions. They willingly relinquishes their personal belongings for public consumption to the benefit to the virtuous members of their community. Besides, noble disciples are superior persons, sa purisa. They give gifts of good person, sa purisa dana. One of these qualities to give respectively a noble disciple values the recipient, the gift, the act of giving. He gives willingly and without resentment. No matter how low the recipient's social standing, he does not hold the person in contempt. Acting with kindness and in intention. And fifthly, panya, wisdom. Comprehensive knowledge, clear knowing, discriminative knowledge, reason analysis. A noble disciple distinguishes between true and false, good and bad, right and wrong, appropriate and inappropriate, beneficent and harmful. It's a practical knowledge. A person understands causality and understands how to relate to the condition in order to solve problems. This knowledge applies specifically to human suffering. It is used to alleviate suffering and to live a good life. There are many ways to refer to this wisdom, including knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satcha, knowledge of dependence of origination, Pati Sammupata Na, knowledge of free from the five hindrances, Nivarana, the definition of a combination of wisdom, Panya Sampata, as the attributes of a noble disciple. Wisdom that penetrates a rising and passing away, which is noble and pierces defilement, leading to the complete destruction of suffering. Alternatively, one knows the cycle of nature, of birth, old age, sickness and death, of growth and decline, pierces defilements, can also translating into penetrating into the truth. As an attribute of the noble disciple is, no matter what level of expertise a person has in worldly knowledge, a prominent politician, a brilliant businessman, a clever inventor, or a skilled researcher, for example, the knowledge of a noble disciple is indispensable for every person in solving life's problems and living honorably. Sutta, learning, can be conditioned factor for panya, for wisdom. It provides information and expands a person's understanding. It is not only Dhamma learning that supports wisdom. Worldly knowledge, especially life experiences, can foster an understanding of truth. A person skilled in reflection, in wise reflection, āgamana-diṭṭhika, gains an understanding of the world and of life from applying technical or professional knowledge. The decisive factor for spiritual progress, however, is wisdom. Some people are highly educated but are unable to reflect. They therefore do not grow wise, do not truly benefit from their knowledge. Some people have only a meager level of formal education, but they are very wise. Their wise reflection enables them to solve problems. For a wise person, increased knowledge of any kinds is used to their advantage. Because a wise person can still prosper despite a sort of a formal learning, there are many occasions where the number of attributes of a noble disciple is reduced from 5 to 4, leaving faith, conduct, and generosity and wisdom. Wisdom fulfills not only sutta, learning, it also validates all other factors of the noble disciple. Wisdom ensures that faith is correct, not erring towards gullibility. Wisdom leads to suitable moral conduct, which is praised by awakened beings, freed from clinging to rules and practices. Wisdom brings about true relinquishment, because as long as one does not truly understand the world and phenomenon, one has not discovered a more refined happiness. It is natural that one takes pleasure in sensuality, but a lack of wisdom, it is difficult to avoid anything being preoccupied by worldly pleasures, and to be generous without wishing for some form of sense of pleasure or other reward. Wisdom thus unites other factors. It is the essential factor of a noble disciple that is the aims of each successive level of spiritual practice. To sum it up, there are 4 primarily virtues, sila, of a noble disciple. Sattva, faith in the panya, the wisdom, virtue, and persistence of human beings. These qualities promote a realization of truth as the highest good as taught by Gautama Buddha and his disciples. This faith fosters the building of virtuous society established on principles of truth. Second, sila, self-discipline, which leads to the appropriate behavior in relationship to others as to one's environment. The conduct supports the blossoming of virtue in an individual and fosters social harmony. Saka, generosity, relinquishes, which reduces selfishness and prepares a person to assist others. Fourth, panya, wisdom, penetrative knowledge of things as they truly are, as following laws of nature or as arising and passing away according to the causes and conditions. These knowledge, accompanied by a free mind, promotes a proper relationship to things and appropriate balanced conduct. A person then knows how to apply and develop other virtues in a suitable way. Sutta, learning, acquires by any form, by instruction, by encouragement, by advice, or by study. Supports the development of other virtues and bring about greater success. But the required amount of learning and the level of success depends on a person's ability to reflect with wisdom. Let us return to the first virtue of faith, sattva. Examine how it is a critical factor at the beginning of a spiritual practice. Normally, sattva, faith, is divided into 3 groups. Faith in the Ratanatai, the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Occasionally, a single precise definition is presented, especially when describing the faith of a noble disciple before realization of a stream entry. A person has faith in the enlightenment of the Tathagata. Thus, The Blessed One is an Arihat, a Arihan, a Harihata, the Awakened One. This form of faith is called faith in the Tathagata, Tathagata Bodhisattva. It is faith in the wisdom of the awakened Buddha, who is considered the archetype, representative, or pioneer for all human beings. Gautama Buddha's awakening confirms that all human beings are capable of realizing the truth, capable of reaching the highest good through mindfulness, wisdom, and disciplined effort. Gautama Buddha compared himself to a baby who is the first to peck its way through the eggshells of ignorance and to discover an ancient path, who reveals this path to humanity. Faith is Gautama Buddha's awakening is thus equivalent to faith in the capability and wisdom of human beings. More sufficiently, it is self-confidence or faith in oneself. This confidence is not selfish belief or pride, but rather confidence in human beings or an objective trust in humanity. One believes in the human potential for wisdom, that every person can reach the highest goal through spiritual training, satisfying the greatest of humans' aspiration. The Buddha is the symbol of self-belief. He is the first person to assert his human potential, the first person to not attribute enlightenment to a divine or supernatural power. Effectively, faith in Gautama Buddha's encompasses faith in the triple gem, the Taratanatai. There is trust that human beings can develop wisdom to the point of resolving even of the most refined difficulties in the heart. They are able to reach the highest liberation and complete happiness, just as Gautama Buddha was able to accomplish. There is trust that these principles of practice and the highest goals are aspects of truth based on natural laws. There is the trust that there are people who have reached this goal, who comprise a noble community, the Sangha, have verified the truth, propagate the eternal law of Dhamma, spread blessings, and are fully prepared to assist others to join this noble community, or assist others to the steps to stream entry, assist others to become a sotapanna, or prepare them to enter the stream of realization, to awaken. Although Buddhism advocates wisdom, faith is the essential quality at the beginning stages of practice. Before a person realizes his or her potential and perfect wisdom, faith here is different from what is commonly understood and should not be mistaken for blind faith. It is faith in wisdom, linked with wisdom, and leads to wisdom. There are two important aspects of faith in the Taratanatai, the triple gem, or the faith in Gautama Buddha's awakening. First, the entire teaching of Buddhism, either of the highest goal or the modes of practice, rests on the principle that human beings are capable of following the footsteps, realizing the truth through their own effort and wisdom. There exists no external supreme source of power surpassing that of human beings. If this principle were to be false, then the entire Buddhist system of practice and the stated goal would be meaningless and void. Secondly, if a Buddhist disciple does not have truth or does not have trust in this human potential, he will be unable to progress along the path of Buddhism. How could one be able to devote himself to practice? In fact, he would not be a true disciple of the Buddha. Faith in the Buddha's awakening is thus an essential quality for a Buddhist. For a latter division of faith into 4 factors, we expand this later in chapter 14 on faith. Stream entry, sotapanna, is the valid goal for Buddhist practitioners. Reaching the essential stage of awakening should be encouraged. The related factors of faith, conduct, learning, generosity, and wisdom, which is the Buddhist repeatedly taught, when developed, can be considered equivalent to stream entry, should also be emphasized. These 5 factors are to be developed gradually, both before and realization of stream entry and after. They are relevant to the present time. Today's society is in need of that faith that is based on reason, not credulity, and of trust in human potential for reaching the highest good. Society requires an understanding of true spiritual moral conduct. As connected to other spiritual quality, this conduct then guides and protects society. In today's society, there's an abundance of learning and a profusion of information, but it often appears to create increased confusion and difficulty for people. Society requires an education in noble principles that reveal the essential meaning of life and points out ways of disentanglements from problems. Such learnings too leads to self-sufficiency and suitable action. Today's society faces increasingly dire economic problems, which require self-sacrifice, generosity, and mutual assistance, coming from the pure heart. The earth no longer has the resources to sustain people's unbridled greed. People need to discover the happiness that comes from giving and sharing that leads to social harmony. Contemporary society is full of people who take pride in their intelligence because they have received a formal education. They are able to accomplish extraordinary things that wield a certain power over nature and environment. People have become expert in worldly knowledge to the extent that their power is exceptional. But because they lack transcendent wisdom, they have only begun to penetrate the miseries of the universe. As a result of pride, people risk falling into a pit created by their own intelligence. They meet with obstruction on the physical level, the frustration in their hearts to solve these problems. People require noble wisdom. Looking at the state of the world today and the widespread behavior of people, there are 2 outstanding qualities of extreme enterers that should be emphasized as guidelines for living. First, the stream enterers have a firm understanding of the law of cause and effect. Their trust in wisdom is adequately strong to expect successful results from action based on mindfulness and balanced effort in line with causality. They do not rely on fate or petition a supernatural force from outside to intercede on their behalf. However, because of their wisdom is not yet complete, their confidence is not self-sustaining. They still rely on something else who has reached the truth and leads the way. This is the faith in Buddha's awakening, or faith in the Taratanatai. This is the highest and the purest level of faith. Thereafter, wisdom is perfected and replaces faith. The wisdom of stream enterers is not yet absolute. Their wisdom is reinforced by faith. Second, stream enterers are firmly established on the path to awakening. Their understanding of the world is sufficient to not being influenced by defilements nor to overrate worldly conditions. Buddhadhamma. They have begun to experience transcendent joy, piti, and wisdom, freedom, which brings about appreciation of the truth, satya. They develop chanda, wholesome desire, enthusiasm, and love for the truth. They desire truth so much that there is no chance of them returning to a fascination with material pleasures. Unlike ordinary people, they seek no reward of material gain, honor, fame, praise, pleasure, or heaven. From their virtuous conduct, sila, or the form their acts of generosity, saka, their moral conduct is steadfast. They are not discouraged if they do not reap these aforementioned rewards. This Dhammapada verse illustrates the life of a sotapanna, a stream enterer. Fear-stricken in a large number take refuge in mountains, forests, sacred groves, and trees. But no such refuge is safe. No such refuge is supreme. Not by resorting to such a refuge is one free from all misery. One who goes for refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, who clearly sees with wisdom dukkha, the origin of dukkha, the transcending of dukkha, and the Noble Eightfold Path, leading to the end of dukkha. This indeed is a safe refuge. This indeed is the refuge supreme. By reaching such a refuge, one is free from all miseries. Dhammapada, verse 188 through 192. Let us return to Gautama Buddha's frequent teaching. Bhikkhus, those for whom you have compassion and those who you are receptive, whether friends or colleagues, relatives or kinsmen, these you should extort, settle, and establish in the 4 factors of stream entry. Leaders of a family, an organization, or a business who really deserve the title of a leader, fulfill their responsibility, are able to foster the 5 qualities of a stream entry in their relatives, dependents, and employees. So abhinyaho or abhinyaha. So either 5 or 6 abhinya. Supported by the Himalayas, a great tree grows these 5 growths: its growth, its branches and leaves, its inner bark, its outer bark, and sapwood and hard and inwood. So too, supported by a devout family leader, members of a family grow in these 5 growths. They grow in faith, they grow in moral conduct, they grow in learning, they grow in generosity, and they grow in wisdom. Besides encouraging a general assistance to family and friends, Gautama Buddha gave specific teaching concerning the factors of stream entries in reference to repaying the goodness of one's parents. I declare, O monks, that there are 2 persons whose goodness it is difficult to repay. What 2? One's mother and father, mata, pita. Even if one were to carry one's mother on one's shoulder and one's father on the other, attending to them until one reached the age of a centurion, reached the age of 100 years, and if one were to care for them by kneading, massaging, and bathing, they would even void their excrements there. Even by that, one would not do right by one's parents. One would not repay them. Even if one were to establish one's parents as the supreme lords and rulers over this earth, rich in 7 treasure, one would not do right by one's parents. One would not repay them. What is the reason for this? Parents have been of great service to their children. They have nurtured, fed, and introduced them to the world. But one who encourages his unbelieving parents settles and establishes them in faith. Who encourages his immoral parents settles and establishes them in moral conduct. Who encourages his stingy parents settles and establishes them in generosity. Who encourages his ignorant parents settles and establishes him in wisdom. Such one does right by his parents. He repays them.